Don in London, hello. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. And it's coming up to April the 5th, so this is my video for April the 5th. And I have to say, I ought not to watch the international news before I start doing a video, because I can get wrapped up in what I think the world ought to look like. And I've learned that it's better to look after what is around me, the people, places and things, look after as best I can and be a part of. Not to take no notice of the international stage and what is going on, but know that I can only influence to a certain extent what is going on there. But I can talk about recovery and what it's like to be an alcoholic in recovery. And believe you me, we're wound up just as much as anybody else by the world and what goes on in it. But we learn how to live life again, sober, so that if we do have any influence, it's probably done with a sober head rather than an insane head, which is trying to be right. So these days I'm not trying to be right either, but I can make my observations as I go. So I'm really grateful to be in recovery. Some days are good, some days are bad, just like everybody else. But the good news is, with the help of family, friends and community and very good professional medical people, I was alive long enough to find out that it was okay to learn how to be sober and to learn how to live life all over again. And in these straitened times, a lot of people of my age are finding it very hard to learn how to do new things. The good news is we can teach old dogs new tricks, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get the rewards that we got before. And sometimes, just being alive with our needs met, that's the basics. Wants forgotten is as good as it gets. And that's quite good, because it's beyond my wildest dreams to be alive at all. So I do have gratitude, and I can become very ungrateful if I start to play old games of I think I know better than somebody else, because I don't. I get to know what is the right course of action by knowing what is going on around me with a sober mind. And sometimes it can get insane as well. Feelings do get overwhelming. So what has helped me more than anything is the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for it, never can, never will. Thankfully, it's full of unique, authentic people who share their experience, strength and hope where they will, and that's so important to me. The anonymous bit, anonymity, always I see as sanctuary to find the truth of who we are, and then to find the truth of what is happening today. So anonymous, most important, a sanctuary to find truth. The truth of what it's like to have got into such a terrible state of addiction, and then to find a way out on a daily basis, to keep sober and let life happen and be a part of it, and see what we can improve on in the best possible way, but not the perfect way or necessarily the way we think it ought to be. It's about being realistic, and living reality is spiritual, as far as I understand, and that's just me and my outlook. But the good news is, in the fellowship of AA, you will hear every viewpoint about life and how it's judged, and how we judge each other if we get into being foolish like that. So, what is AA? I share from this little card the AA preamble, said at the beginning of every meeting, and then very much like a meeting I'll do a reading from the Daily Reflections, and maybe these other two books here, As Bill Sees It, and the 24-hour-a-day book, depending on where I think I've got to. So it's all about April the 5th. But first the AA preamble, and I read it out. Excuse me. Water. I make these as I go. I don't actually edit them. But I did have to stop the other one, because I was going into a political rant. So I'm not perfect. So what is AA? Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. And this is the important bit. as well as all the other important bits. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. So whilst AA doesn't do any of those things, all of us who go to AA have all got affiliations. It might be to sects, denominations, politics, organisations or institutions, because that's what we've grown up with. And we do engage in controversy, and we do endorse or oppose causes, because we're human. But in AA, it's about a desire to stop drinking. So we try and put all those other things aside and say we're all on a level playing field, and we just want to be sober today. So as it says, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I read somewhere a meeting leader, as they were called, was saying you'll get more out of the Bible than you will out of any of the AA literature. And what they were saying was they get more out of the Bible than they do out of AA literature. And all power to them for that happening. But one of the things we don't do in the fellowship is try and inflict our views and beliefs on each other. It's called proselytizing, which is to impress ideas on others of a political or religious nature. And we try not to do that in AA, because it's difficult enough to find a way to be sober. But you are entitled to your views, and that's absolutely necessary. So if you believe in God, all well and good. If you're an agnostic or an atheist, all well and good. And we rub along together, and sometimes we wonder what is a higher power in our lives. Well, for me it's truth, love and wisdom, but it could be anything for anyone else. But the absolute truth is far better than my opinion. Love, how to love people, be loved back without conditions, is something I'm learning daily. And wisdom, where do I get it? Well, in how to be sober, I get it from other people, and probably about everything else too. But I can make my mind up today, because I have freedom of choice, and that's exactly what every AA person, I hope, is looking for. Freedom of choice to be themselves, and make the best of what is, without a drink inside us. And that applies to substances of any kind, or behaviour of any kind, because if we know what our malady is, then at least we have common ground to try and work out what to do next. So I'm glad I can get angry at the international situation and what people are doing to each other, as if, we're just statistics. And the same is true of my own country, where statistics are used to inflict maximum pain, it seems, on the nation. Anyway, that's just me and my rant. So let's talk about AA, all about us. But it says here, for April 5th in this book, Daily Reflections, I have to laugh at myself and not take myself too seriously, because if I did, then I would think I knew better than you, and of course I don't. I'm so glad about that. We're just all learning. So April 5th, it talks about true brotherhood. We have not once sought to be one in a family, to be a friend among friends, to be a worker among workers, to be useful, to be a useful member of society. Always we tried to struggle to the top of the heap, or to hide underneath it. Extremes always. This self-centered behaviour blocked a partnership relation with any one of those about us. Of true brotherhood we had small comprehension, and that's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, another good read, especially if you've got a bit of time behind you, because in early days I couldn't read a darn thing. It just did not make any sense. So Just Gently is making sense these days. This message contained in Step 4 was the first one I heard loud and clear. I hadn't seen myself in print before, and Step 4 is about doing our fearless moral inventory, the assets and liabilities that we've accumulated over the years. And self-appraisal is good, as long as we share it with somebody else and say, what do you think? So we share it with God, or the higher power of our understanding, which can actually come in the form of a human who has wisdom. I haven't seen myself in print before. Prior to my coming into AA, I knew of no place that could teach me how to become a person among persons. In other words, just another normal human being, if such a thing exists, because we're all extraordinary. From my very first meeting, I saw people doing just that, and I wanted what they had. One of the reasons that I'm a happy, sober alcoholic today is that I'm learning this most important lesson. And the most important lesson is I don't know the answers. Or I may think I know the answers, or can I check this answer out with you because I'm not too sure. And I see a world where we all think we have to know the answer, and we don't. We're supposed to work together to work it out. What is the common good? Oh dear, that sounded like a political principle there, the common good. But you know, fellowship is about being equal, and we have unity in service. The group we go to, or the groups or meetings of AA we go to, what you see is what you get. Real human beings, not perfect, at different stages, from 1 day or 1 hour sober or still drunk, through to decades, and we all try and work together. On page 41 of As Bill Sees It, this book, it talks about membership rules. And as you might have noticed in the AA preamble, it says in the second paragraph, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So nobody can boot you out, not even if you're drunk. But people will try if you really kick up or kick off. Okay, membership rules. Around 1943 or 1944, the central office asked the groups to list their membership rules and send them in. After they arrived, we set them all down. A little reflection upon these many rules brought us to an astonishing conclusion. If all these edicts, or rules, had been enforced from everywhere at once, it would have been practically impossible for any alcoholic to ever join AA. About 9/10 of our oldest and best members could never have got by. So all the membership rules were exclusion clauses, excluding people. At last, experience taught us that to take away any alcoholic's full chance for sobriety in AA was sometimes to pronounce his death sentence, and often to condemn him to endless misery. Who dared to be judge, jury, and executioner of his own sick brother? And so there are no membership rules. I mean, if it's not even a rule, a desire to stop drinking. And many people, like me in early days, were drinking and going to meetings. And that still happens today, because we are not perfect. And if it were a perfect solution, there wouldn't be any alcohol in the world, would there? Because there'd be no need for it. But, you know, people have been self-medicating for thousands of years, and for some of us it gets out of hand. We don't know how to stop it. And we don't know how not. We have to live taking the edge off, because we can't stand reality. But the greatest news is, if we get into recovery and start to learn the 12 steps, and live them and experience them, we then see reality without the blinkers or fixing that we used to do. Or fearing and hiding under the duvet and thinking it might go away, or hiding under a sheet and thinking, if I keep a low profile, no one's going to bother me, and I'll keep on drinking until I die. Well, the good news is, we don't have to hide under a blanket or a duvet. We can get out and say, listen, I'm still trying to learn how to live my life, and all I need to do is find out what I need to do, needs met, and forget about the wants, which is being the big shot, or no shot, or silent and out of the way and just living in a sort of daze. These days it starts to work if we work at it. So for April 5th in Thought for the Day, 24-hour day book, a non-authorised AA piece of literature from Hazelton, but written by an AA person apparently. People often ask what makes the AA program work. One of the answers, because there are many answers, is that AA works because it gets people away from themselves as the centre of the universe. In other words, we take the spotlight off us, so we can start to learn how to be human again. And we don't go back to putting the spotlight on us, unless it's necessary for a job, I guess. And it teaches them to rely more on the fellowship of others, on the strength from God, which for me is wisdom of others. Forgetting ourselves in fellowship, prayer, and working with others is what makes the AA program work. Are these things keeping me sober? And I could say, yes, they are, just for today, because the steps only work. I might have a theoretical knowledge of them, I might be able to recite them off by heart, but unless I'm living the steps, living and practicing a new way of living, opening myself up to the world, to be included, part of, to love and be loved back, and learn wisdom from others, I might as well say, what am I doing? Yeah. I might relapse, if I think I've become the centre of the universe again, because I'm not. I'm just one of many. I'm just hopefully equal to other people. That will do. And it says here, meditation for the day. And whether you're agnostic or atheist, it doesn't matter. If you have a higher power in your life, and for me, it just started with truth, love and wisdom, and it hasn't moved on much. But I know I could never define God, because what made the universe? Well, beyond my definition. And that's because I don't know, and that's okay. So God is the great interpreter of human personality, of one human personality to another. Even personalities who are the nearest together have much in their natures that remains a sealed book to each other, and only as God enters and controls their lives are the mysteries of each revealed to the other. So in other words, our human nature is to cover up the cracks and fear being found out. But if we actually say, in openness, look at the dear universe, see me as I am, and that way I can get help. Maybe I've got a chance. Each personality is so different, and that's just as it may be. Because if we weren't unique and authentic, what would be the point? Hence my negative feelings towards statistics, which don't actually take account of the human condition. God alone understands perfectly the language of each and can interpret between the two. Here we find the miracles of change and the true interpretation of life. So by opening up to the universe and to everybody around us and saying, this is me, and I'm still learning what it is to be a human being, and I do have personality traits which are peculiar to me, but if I don't tell you about them, you'll never find out. So part of the higher power theory, or actually the higher power practice, is to open ourselves up and share, and do an inventory, maybe, if we feel inclined, and see how that works for us too. So prayer for the day, I pray that I may be in the right relationship to God, or for me, the right relationship to the universe, truth, love and wisdom, because I'm learning what that is daily. It changes daily, it can't stay the same. Except the words, truth, love and wisdom, are constants around an understanding of what it's like to live openly. I pray that God will interpret to me the personalities of other people. So if I pray, please help me understand another person, it's better then to go and say, please help me understand where you're coming from in this. And then we open ourselves up. If we are trusting and are willing to do exactly the same, not to have power over somebody, but to be interdependent, so that I can understand them and help them, and also help myself, but not in a selfish way. And that's what it comes down to. Often it's a selfish outlook, one-sided outlook, the one that we think is right, the one we have grown up through self-will and willpower, and to attain great achievements in our own small heads. Whatever we want, we get, probably. And if we don't get it, we can get miserable. So I've learned that expectations are resentments under construction. April the 5th, a whole 24 hours coming up. Yes, only a little while to go before it's here. So I shall make this video, do all the usual things, then add on the previous years as well. I've been doing these, or some of them. I deleted some, unfortunately, from quite a long time ago, which showed what a wreck I was. Maybe there was ego there when I did it. Not to show me in a bad light, but I was a wreck. And now I'm less of a wreck. The Serenity Prayer helps me always to find peace in what I can and cannot do, and learn the wisdom about that. The Serenity Prayer at any time of day, to God or good conscience or a power greater than you, or just an exhortation to the universe? Please, universe, are you listening? So often it's better to say, please help me, somebody. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is always just for today. That's for me. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour during those years, well, equally addictive. I could be addicted to work, relationships, people, places, things, obsessed, wanting more and more and more. And I was a very good consumer. I was a materialistic, driven person, made into a marketing person's dream, I guess. And why? Why did I become an addict? Simply, anyone can become an addict. It all depends on our temperament and our life experiences. And when I talk about temperament, I'm talking about our emotions and our connection to what is going on right now. So if emotionally there is something wrong, or something not quite right, or our feelings are out of balance, that is, we may be fearful, not quite feeling right, feeling less than we ought, and we need to fix ourselves. And that was me for many years, trying to fix the emptiness or fix something inside me which said, I want that, and then I'll be okay. And I was also a chronic people pleaser, so if I felt that I needed to be loved or wanted love, I had to please you, rather than just be myself and then be loved for myself. I had no real identity. So these days, learning who I am, just one day at a time, not drinking one day at a time, and getting help to do that. And what helps me? Well, of course, family, friends, community, and a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm just one of many who go to AA, and we all share our experience, strength and hope in different ways in different places. Many people simply in fellowship meetings, and that's in an anonymous surroundings. Nobody shares outside those meetings about what they hear. But we can say we go and say we were there, and we can share what keeps us safe on a daily basis. That's the nature of fellowship. Nobody tells you what to do. We learn what is best to do for ourselves in our own unique, authentic path of life. So having said that, we all have this similarity, which is a need to be sober. And once we're sober, stay sober. And that's where AA comes in for me. Many other influences affect me, but the backbone of recovery for me is the experience, strength and hope I get from meetings and from the fellowship. So if I didn't include fellowship in my story or my sharing, then I would be suggesting I did it on my own. And the answer is, I failed to be able to do it on my own, simply because self-will ran to self-obsession, and then self-will ran riot. And then completely addicted, physically, emotionally, and most likely spiritually, to the moment of now. I could do nothing but drink. So these days, I don't. And that's because of fellowship and the toolkit it gave me. So I share about the toolkit here. The AA preamble I'll share in a moment, and then there are 12 steps of action that a person can take to change their attitude and behaviour, or our attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. And those 12 steps of AA are on this handy little card here. And I've got quite a few of these. I give them out to people if they're new, or if they've left them behind, or they can't remember. Because we are all forgetful. As much as we take information in each day, we are in a process of forgetting what is good for us and possibly what is bad for us. So I guess serenity, spiritual connection to now, is all about knowing who we are and where we are, and being aware of what is going on around us. And that's a lot to do with meditation and reflection. And April is all about, for me, step 4, which is the fearless moral inventory, as they say, or we say, to find out who we were, so we can find out how to be now. So the AA preamble, I'll share that first, and then some literature. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So we deal with sobriety. We don't deal with the person's politics or religion or their personal beliefs. We just deal with sobriety, and we are all the same size, with some wisdom and some experience and some strength and hope to share. So that sounds like altruistic, but if we didn't leave our politics and our religion at the door, well, we wouldn't get on, would we? And AA is a very broad, in inverted commas, church. So we all try and get on. Anyway, one of the other books, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. This is my home edition, if you like. And there are, I've got bigger ones, like this. Easier to read from, but I've picked up this one. And I've been selecting little bits out of it. And step 4, it says here, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So it's all about taking stock, and as we take stock we find out more about ourselves, what made us tick, what helped us retain our status as drinker, and how we keep sober today. And it says here on page 43, we want to find exactly how, when and where our natural desires will have warped us, where things are out of balance. We wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others and ourselves. By discovering what our emotional deformities are, or just our emotional extremes are, we can move toward their correction. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for us. Without a searching and fearless moral inventory, most of us found that the faith which really works in daily living is still out of reach. And the simple reason for that is simply, if we continue to be out of balance, or continue to behave as we used to do, we can be what is known as a dry drunk, and we're still white-knuckling it, because we're still relying on self-will, driven by obsession to be okay. And if we're driven to be okay, we're out of balance, simple as that. So all the emotions can then be skewed to extreme behaviour of holding on tight to sobriety, when in fact by letting go and letting the good of life happen and letting our emotions settle into sobriety, we have a better life. So the daily reflections, the other one, all about step 4 in April. It says here for April 5th, true brotherhood. We have not once sought to be one in a family, to be a friend among friends, to be a worker among workers, to be a useful member of society. Always we try to struggle to the top of the heap, or to hide underneath it. This self-centered behaviour, either at the top of the heap or underneath it, blocked a partnership relation with anyone of those about us, or of true brotherhood without small comprehension. This message contained in step 4 was the first one I had found or heard loud and clear. I hadn't seen myself in print before. Prior to coming into AA, I knew of no place that could teach me how to become a person among persons. From my very first meeting, I saw people doing just that, and I wanted what they had. One of the reasons that I am happy today, a happy, sober alcoholic today, is that I'm learning the most important lesson. And that lesson for me is how to be myself, a person among persons. It's not whether I'm at the top of the heap or underneath it or somewhere in the middle. It's how I am with other people, and that's even and balanced, even-handed with myself, so I may be even-handed with other people. So we learn a lot in the inventory, and a gentle bank holiday Monday for me. And what helps me, that serenity prayer when I'm not quite sure about life, is to God or good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me is simply just for today. and my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. I know I'm repetitive and I say these things, but I feel it's important to make it clear what these videos are about, and they are about my recovery. And my addiction to substance was alcohol, my behaviour either alcoholic, workaholic, relationshipaholic, any oldaholic, in the gymaholic. And what can I do these days? I can smile about it and say to myself, well, I was pushing myself to extremes always. And why? Because I felt less than, or more than, or putting on a brave face, living off ego, and underneath all of that probably a whole lot of fear about me, and whether I was part of life, or part of the party of community, family, civilization and society. Some of those are born with a feeling of less than, I guess, or a fear of something which is outside our understanding. So what did I do to help me? I followed my father's example, and this is not to blame him, it's just what I knew. He drank heavily to take the edge off and make life palatable, and that was because he had a few stigmas about his background which he felt made him feel less than. So second generation less than, and it's just the way it was. These days I get a bit of experience, strength and hope by going to a fellowship, and the fellowship I go to is Alcoholics Anonymous, and that helps me live sober one day only, this one day. And at meetings of AA, I don't speak for AA, I speak for my experience being in the fellowship, and it's a real big distinction. I am not a leader in any shape or form, I'm just another person who goes to the fellowship, and one of the readings is all about that, or in fact both are, from the books I'm going to use. Anyway, the preamble, which is said at the beginning of every meeting, gives you a clue that you can just be yourself again, or find who you are in fellowship and in the world. Now there's a good knock-on effect. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any courses, and certainly doesn't endorse my videos. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So in that last sentence, this is the reason why I do these videos, for two purposes. One is, it slows me down into the moment of asking myself some reflective questions to meditate upon where I am today, in the moment of now, and without a drink inside me. So how am I feeling today? Well, I feel okay, and I realise that this whole programme is about open, honest and willing, and sharing the truth as best I can, and knowing that I have the ability to be in denial or put filters in between me and the truth. So open, honest and willing I try to be, and sometimes it's very difficult, because fear still manifests from time to time, and the old brave face will come out, and the old ego will start to rattle along, rather than having a bit of courage, faith and confidence. So I aim for courage, faith and confidence on a daily basis, and I know there is a balance between the two of those things. On the extremes, fear, brave-facing ego. On the other extreme, blind faith, blind courage, and confidence without foundation. But there is somewhere in between where we get courage, faith and confidence that things will turn out okay, and life is okay, just for one day. Right, so yesterday, 2 meetings of AA for me. I went and made tea at my mid-lunchtime or mid-morning meeting down at the hut, and it's all about the spiritual experience of living in the moment. And it was all about fellowship, and what does fellowship mean to people? And the understanding of fellowship is really very simple. It's a place where we find our truth, the truth of now. And fellowship offers the opportunity for somebody in recovery to keep on with recovery one day only. And that fellowship is a gradual process of understanding there are many, many people like us who are in recovery, just making this one day work. And I love that meeting because it's outlined yet again what is important. People find their truth, learn how to be open, honest and willing as they can be, given their circumstances and where they've come from. So we're all different with this one similarity, And the diversity of fellowship is for people who have nothing or have everything materially. At the same time, we're just looking for spiritual, emotional and physical well-being. So that's it in a nutshell, really. So what more is there to be said? Well, every single day changes, and in the AA literature we get some ideas to keep us on a sober path. And one of the ones I use is daily reflections. One page, one day, but each month covers one of the 12 action steps for people. So the fellowship has 12 action steps. April is representing step 4 in this book, all about the fearless moral inventory. And what it means by doing that is simply to look at our assets and liabilities, where we have resentments and where things have gone right or wrong for us. We all have personal attributes to do with maybe the 7 deadly sins, and we also have other attributes which are to do with the 7 virtues. So it's like an inventory, a self-appraisal, done in a way which is open, honest and willing, as willing as we can be, as honest as we can be, and as open as we can be, probably then to share it with somebody who we trust, to express the worst of us, and also to express the best of us too, so we get the balance back in how we are and what we can do. So today's reading, April 5th, is True Brotherhood. We have not one sought to be one in a family, to be a friend among friends, to be a worker among workers, to be a useful member of society. Always we are trying to struggle to the top of the heap, or to hide underneath it. This is self-centered behaviour. This self-centered behaviour blocked a partnership relation with any one of those about us. Of true brotherhood we had small comprehension. This message contained in step 4 was the first one I heard loud and clear. I hadn't seen myself in print before. Prior to my coming into AA, I knew of no place that could teach me how to become a person amongst persons. From my very first meeting I saw people doing just that, and I wanted what they had. One of the reasons that I'm a happy, sober alcoholic today is that I'm learning this most important lesson. Yeah, just to be a person amongst persons, no bigger, no smaller, no less important, as important. And what more could we want, really, if we wanted to be right-sized with ourselves and with other people? And as Bill sees it, one of the co-founders, somebody who said if AA didn't keep on changing to meet the needs of changing society, it might fail and die and wither. He was all for change, and sometimes we can be a bit stick in the mud in fellowship and hold on to old ideas. So, you know, part of my new idea was several years ago trying to understand my own situation and then sharing it here on YouTube, so at least you get an idea of what fellowship can represent and what it can do and what it can't do. And what it can do is help us keep sober, but it can't change anything that's happened in the past, but it can actually enable our better choices today. And as Bill sees it, I'm just doing them linearly, so they don't actually follow in with step 4, which is in the daily reflections. And here we are, page 69, giving without demand. Watch any AA of 6 months working with a 12th step prospect, that is trying to help another alcoholic to achieve sobriety. If the newcomer says, to the devil with you, the 12th stepper only smiles and finds another alcoholic to help. He doesn't feel frustrated or rejected. If his next drunk responds, and in turn starts to give love and attention to other sufferers, yet gives none back to him, the sponsor is happy about it anyway. He still doesn't feel rejected. Instead, he rejoices that his former prospect is sober and happy, and actually making good choices. And he well knows that his own life has been made richer as an extra dividend of giving to another without any demand for a return. And you know what? That's so important. It's a fellowship which just offers the opportunity to help other people and learn, experience, strength and hope on a daily basis. And the serenity prayer at the end, which we all share, is God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom simply to know the difference. More later. DonInLondon, good morning. This is my daily video, all about AA and recovery.
Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety on a daily basis. And part of how we help others achieve sobriety on a daily basis is being sober ourselves. And I guess learning life every single day. And my background includes training and development of people and making it happen for others, doing training with others, every aspect, every facet, if you like, of how to learn and make life work, and also make life work in a working sense too, in different businesses, all about self-development and career development. And I was average to okay at it, I guess, if not quite good. So that's where my big career went, and where it ended. And I guess the transition for me into a different form of living, where the world was becoming more and more repetitive, sent me over the edge as much as anything to do with overwork and misunderstandings, and also a very big personality clash, which really did undermine me for quite a while. Anyway, what I have learned since is we need to keep on learning the way to live, the way to be. And it's something we cannot do in isolation. And one of the things which I was absolutely forced to do, much to my reluctance in big business, was to introduce something called learning centres, where people could go do self-managed learning. And in the very core of my being, it felt wrong, because it was relying too much and too heavily on self-sustained learning without interaction with other people. And all I've ever worked out in this life is we need interaction, no matter what it is, with human voice and touch, to actually make life worth doing, and also learning new things. So, in my world, where I use a computer very often now to do my own self-managed learning and how to just live life, I also supplement it with books, like this one, given to me last week, and I haven't got very far into it. But what I was just saying really sort of is encapsulated in this paragraph, and it's in the first few pages. I've been taking bits out of it, little snippets, to sort of reinforce what I'm up to. It says here, the greatest obstacle to experiencing the reality of your connectedness is identification with your mind, which causes thought to become compulsive. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realise this because almost everybody is suffering from it, so it is considered normal. This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being. It also creates a false mind-made self that casts a shadow of fear and suffering. And the reason why it does that is, as we get trapped in our thoughts and our fears, we imagine ourselves missing something, and it's the fear of not knowing. The more we learn, the less we know, and that it stops us from being, because we're always forever seeking, almost like a grail, the holy grail of our own self, I suppose, a realization. And the absolute truth of it, the ordinary being, just being on this planet, and not being fearful, is the way to actually find serenity and peace of mind. And that sounds convoluted, because we are aiming to strive to be better at everything. And in the serenity prayer that we use within the fellowship, it's a serenity prayer for everybody really, it's to find the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. So wisdom is inherent in there, but over-elaborate thinking and trying to make something out of a confusion without others to help and support us is difficult. And I'm experiencing great frustration. I bought a mini package from Sony on how to use their music maker, and I'm not too bad when it comes to using the computer, but this particular program is bamboozling me, because I have no interaction other than the instructions which are written, and unfortunately technical subjects are written by technical people who know their subject, but nobody else does. So it's a real elaborate confusion for me, and learning is frustrating, and I'm not going to give up, because I would feel that would be too soon. Learning new things is frustrating, and how to unlearn how we think is very, very difficult, because we fear letting go of it. Because if we are wrong in our assumptions about life based on our thinking, it means the whole damn show may need to change. And that's what happens in AA. We need to actually unlearn how to drink, and every thought is about making sure we can. So is it any wonder we find ourselves in difficult waters, or difficult oceans of alcohol? Anyway, coming on to daily reflections for today. And there's hope in this, because even though I might find it frustrating, I cannot make the music program work yet. I can give it another go, and if I can't make it work, I will complain a little bit and say, listen, this is beyond me, can I have my money back, and here's your software. It doesn't work like that, does it? Anyway, for April, where are we? April 7, I think we are. Yes, from this book, Daily Reflections by AA People for AA People. It says, a wide arc of gratitude. And speaking for Dr. Bob and myself, I gratefully declare that had it not been for our wives, Anne and Lois, neither of us would have lived to see AA's beginning. The Way of Life, page 67, goes on to say, am I capable of such generous tribute and gratitude to my wife, parents and friends without whose support I might never have survived to reach AA's doors? I will work on this and try to see the plan of my higher power. The plan of my higher power is showing me which links our lives together, and I wouldn't have made it. I didn't have a partner or a wife or children, and there is gratitude in that, because God knows what sort of horrors I would have inflicted on them but on the other hand, I may have not gone that way, but I suspect I would have. So I'm glad for the family I have who supported me and got me to where I am, so I could listen and be a part of. Anyway, as Bill sees it. For the 7th, look beyond the horizon, page 125. My workshop stands on the hill back from our home, looking over the valley. I see the village community house where our local group meets. Beyond the circle of my horizon lies the whole world of AA. The unity of AA is the most cherished quality our society has. Our lives, the lives of all to come, depend squarely upon it. Without unity, the heart of AA would cease to beat. Our world arteries would no longer carry the life-giving grace of God. And the life-giving grace of God for me is truth. That's what keeps me going, and I can see God is truth and God is love. And God works through people, because it's a place of being ourselves, without the awkwardness of feeling and thinking, not rather the awkwardness of thinking and the fear that comes on. The feelings are to be at peace and to absorb the moment. That's what's important. The 24-hour day book for April 7th. In AA, alcoholics find a way to solve their personality problems. They do this by recovering 3 things. First, they recover their personal integrity. They pull themselves together. Maybe not. They get honest with themselves and with other people. They face themselves and their problems honestly, instead of running away. They take personal inventory of themselves to see where they really stand. Then they face the facts instead of making excuses for themselves. Have I recovered my integrity? Well, I think it's contingent, one day at a time. And I don't think you can actually put it in the bank. Because we don't know what's going to hit us today, do we? And I've got a doctor's appointment, or rather a clinician's appointment this morning, and I know it's going to be a lot more investigative stuff. And I can fear it if I want to, or I can go there with an open mind, anticipate some awkward questions about why is my blood sugar up, why are these things not quite right, or why is my cholesterol through the roof. And the answer is quite simply, I need to keep an eye on what's happening with my regime. And it's not about them being angry with me or me being angry at myself, because that won't work. I need to be, just to be peaceful, to learn and do something new.